Ghislane Maxwell is the first prisoner to get a visitor, and other prisoners are not happy. Michael Moore believes Trump will beat Biden. Now, I want to know who exactly is Michael Moore helping here. But that's assuming there won't be any cheating, right? And speaking of cheating, there's a top Democratic operative who claims there's plenty of cheating going on. General Flynn is looking for that honest win and yet another killing of a black man in LA. Welcome back to the Daily Facts. So, Ghislaine Maxwell, as you know, was arrested a few months back on charges of assisting Jeffrey Epstein in the abuse of minor girls, among other things. And she's awaiting trial at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. Her trial is supposed to begin in the summer of 2021. So let's take a look at why people aren't too happy. Well, prisoners and their attorneys aren't too happy. Ghislaine Maxwell is first federal inmate in New York City to receive in-person visit since start of pandemic. Okay. This is from the Daily News, so let's get into it. A Brooklyn federal jail rolled out the orange carpet, that's funny, for Ghislaine Maxwell's defense team Friday, allowing them what sources said was the first in-person federal jail visit in the city since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, the Daily News learned. Well, that's not surprising when you have money, right? I mean, when you're wealthy, you can do just about anything. That's how our legal system is currently. Now, President Trump is doing a lot in the legal department, so we'll see if that changes. And I believe it will, because he's appointing these federal judges, and federal judges who believe in the Constitution and the rule of law. So an attorney for Jeffrey Epstein's alleged madam and a woman strolled into Sunset Park's Metropolitan Detention Center on Friday morning to meet with the British socialite, toting legal documents. Both were wearing masks. Well, I hope they were wearing masks. I mean, they were in New York City or any part of this country where you're going to be wearing a mask, right? It's mandatory right now walking into places. Maxwell has been behind bars in Brooklyn for less than 2 months. Other inmates who have been in lockdown since the pandemic began have not had any in-person family or legal visits. I'm incredulous, really, that she was the first one when there are those of us who have been waiting for nearly 6 months to have an in-person visit with our clients, said Susan Marcus, a lawyer with clients at MDC who could face the death penalty in their cases. Well, I guess the only good news for them facing the death penalty is they're prolonging their life potentially if they actually get the death penalty, right? I mean, the longer they wait, well, that just gives them a few more months or weeks or whatever of life. Assuming they're guilty, they're all guilty, innocent rather, until proven guilty. So let's keep going. It's heartbreaking, actually. Maxwell's defense team has urged that the conditions at the jail have impacted her constitutional right to an attorney. Earlier this week, a judge denied her request to be transferred to general population, a move Maxwell hoped would allow her easier access to evidence in the case. She is charged with grooming underage girls for Epstein's sexual abuse in the mid-1990s. The two members of the Maxwell's legal team, including attorney Christian Everdell, said nothing as they walked into the jail at 9 a.m. for a nearly 4-hour visit. So here are the two here coming in to visit Ghislaine. The Federal Bureau of Prisons declined to answer whether Maxwell was the first federal inmate in the city to receive a visit. Okay, so we don't know. There you go. But the likelihood is pretty high that she was, because she's a wealthy woman with connections. So I'm inclined to believe that she did get a little bit of help in that department, and they were the first to visit. While in general, I just want to go back to her wanting to get into general population. Now, we all know that Jeffrey Epstein, he committed suicide, and there's a lot of speculation around that he did not. But at any rate, her going into general population is risky. I mean, the people that are in prison or in jail, she's not in prison yet, people that are in jail, they don't take too kindly to hurting minors. So it's really uh, unfathomable, unfathomable that she would want to be in general population, but evidently she does. So we can just, we know that she had her visit, and who knows what's going to happen in this case. We're going to watch it closely because it's these young women who have come forth. They want their day in court, and they felt they lost it when Jeffrey Epstein, when he died. The 58-year-old claims jail officials are subjecting her to onerous conditions in an effort to prevent her from killing herself, as Epstein did last year in MCC. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to enticing minors to travel for sex and lying under oath. And those are the things that she is guilty of: perjury and enticing the young girls. So they don't want her dead. They want her alive, and they want her to, you know, they want her to stand trial. So we'll have to watch and see how this case moves along. And speaking of moving along, let's see here. Somebody we probably all wish would stop talking and move along, right? Oh my goodness. And that's none other than Michael Moore. Yep, you guessed it. He's out there flapping his gums again and getting the airtime to do it. But I sometimes wonder who exactly Michael Moore is helping. Well, let's take a look here. Michael Moore seems to be one of the very few liberals that understands the widespread looting and rioting currently being enabled by left-wing politicians may not be the best look for his party heading into November. You think? I would agree with that, Michael Moore. Good on you if you truly believe that, because it is not helping. It is hindering, and I believe when it's all said and done, well, President Trump will win, and the Democratic Party is going to limp to the finish line. They're going to limp to the finish line. So let's get into this. In fact, the liberal filmmaker seems to have made peace with the idea that President Trump could once again win election in 2020. Yes, he will. Citing enthusiasm for the president, Moore warned that he has momentum in some battleground states and that a reality check could once again be incoming for those who think Trump could lose the election. Moore was famously one of the very few to predict that Trump would win in 2016, The Guardian says. Moore posted on his Facebook last week, "Are you ready for a Trump victory? Are you mentally prepared to be outsmarted by Trump again? Do you find comfort in your certainty that there is no way Trump can win? Are you content with the trust you've placed in the DNC to pull this off?" Well, I don't think that Trump has outsmarted anyone. I just think that President Trump has done some really great things. It's not about him outsmarting anyone. It's about him delivering on his promises to make this country great again. And he has delivered. And we don't even need to go over that, right? Okay, he continued, "The Biden campaign just announced he'll be visiting a number of states, but not Michigan. Sound familiar? I'm warning you almost 10 weeks in advance. The enthusiasm level for the 60 million in Trump's base is off the charts. For Joe, not so much." Well, Joe Biden, I don't even believe, every day I wake up and I'm in disbelief that the Democratic Party has just announced that he's going to be the nominee during their convention a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I'm still in disbelief land. It's crazy. Don't leave it to the Democrats to get rid of Trump. That's true. You have to get rid of Trump. We have to wake up every day for the next 67 days and make sure each of us are going to get 100 people out to vote. Act now. So he tweeted here, someone needs to pull the fire alarm now. Where are the stories about Trump gaining on Biden? Below a poll from Friday in Michigan. Last week, Trump pulled within 4 points of Biden. Now in one poll, Trump is ahead of Biden in Michigan, 47-45. Yet so many Dems convinced Trump will lose. Danger. Okay, I personally don't believe any poll that would even have Biden trailing Trump by 2. I think Trump is so far ahead of Biden that he can't even see where Biden is behind him. So there you have it. That's, I mean, Michael Moore is right about some things, very few things, but nevertheless, he's right about that. And speaking of winning, right? Democrats will do just about anything to win. So, confessions of a voter fraud. I was a master at fixing mail-in ballots. So this is from the New York Post. Let's get into this. This is going to be interesting. A top Democratic operative says voter fraud, especially with mail-in ballots, and we know President Trump has been saying how they're going to cheat, is no myth. And he knows this because he's been doing it on a grand scale for decades. I hope this person actually comes out and shows us who they are and gives their name, because it will be that much more believable. So let's get into some of this article. Mail-in ballots have become the latest flashpoint in the 2020 elections, while President Trump and the GOP warn of widespread manipulation of the absentee vote that will swell with COVID polling restrictions, because we all know the Democrats are pushing for mail-in voting. The COVID, you got to go. You can't do it in line, even though you can go to Walmart and the grocery store and to Home Depot, but you can't, and you can protest and be packed together like sardines, but going to vote with a mask and social distancing is just unheard of. GOP warn of widespread manipulation of the absentee vote that will swell the COVID polling restrictions. Many Democrats and their media allies have dismissed such concerns as unfounded. Okay, well, but the political insider, who spoke on condition of anonymity because he fears prosecution, said fraud is more the rule than the exception. His dirty work has taken him through the weeds of municipal and federal elections in Paterson, Atlantic City, Camden, Newark, Hoboken, and Hudson County, and his fingerprints can be found in local legislative, mayoral, and congressional races across the Garden State. Some of the biggest names and highest office holders in New Jersey have benefited from his tricks, according to campaign records the Post reviewed. Wow. In an election that is swayed by 500 votes, 1,000 votes, it can make a difference, the tipster said. It could be enough to flip states. That is unheard of. I mean, wow. Wow. Mail-in voting can be complicated, though enough that 84,000 New Yorkers had their mailed votes thrown out in the June 23rd Democratic presidential primary for incorrectly filling them out. But for political pros, they're a piece of cake. In New Jersey, for example, it begins with a black mail-in ballot delivered to a registered voter in a large envelope. Inside the packet is a return envelope, a certificate of mail-in voter, which the voter must sign in the ballot itself. That's when the election rigging springs into action. The ballot has no specific security features like a stamp or watermark, so the insider said he would just make his own ballots. Oh my God. Yeah, he probably should stay anonymous. I just put the ballot through the copy machine and it comes out the same way, the insider said. But the return envelopes are more secure than the ballot. You could never recreate the envelope, he said, so they had to be collected from real voters. Oh my God. He would have his operatives fan out, going house to house, convincing voters to let them mail completed ballots on their behalf as a public service. The fraudster and his minions would then take the sealed envelopes home and hold them over boiling water. You have to steam it to loosen the glue, said the insider. He then would remove the real ballot, place the counterfeit ballot inside the signed certificate, and reseal the envelope. Oh. The tipster said sometimes postal employees are on the scam. You have a postman who is a rabid anti-Trump guy, and he's working in Bedminster or some Republican stronghold. He can take those filled out ballots and knowing 95% are going to be a Republican, he can just throw those in the garbage. Wow. In some cases, mail carriers were members of his work crew and would sift ballots from the mail and hand them over to the operative. Hitting up assisted living facilities and helping the elderly fill out their absentee ballots was a gold mine of votes, the insider said. There are nursing homes where the nurse is actually a paid operative, and they go room by room to these old people who still want to feel like they're relevant, said the whistleblower. They literally fill it out for them. You hear this? Do you hear this? Okay, voter impersonation. When all else failed, the insider would send operatives to vote live in polling stations, particularly in states like New Jersey and New York that do not require voter ID. Pennsylvania also, for the most part, does not. The best targets were registered voters who routinely skip presidential or municipal elections, information which is publicly available. Bribing voters, the tipster said New Jersey homeless shelters offered a nearly inexhaustible pool of reusable, buyable votes. They get to register where they live, and they go to the polls and vote, he said, laughing at the roughly $174 per vote Mike Bloomberg spent to win his third mayoral term. He said he could have delivered the same result at a 70% discount. Oh, so they're paying them. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, you get the idea. I don't think I need to read anymore. There's a whole lot of scamming going on, a whole lot of fraud. And you know, they're just pointing it out. And when you hear these things about the nursing homes and the mail and, going to door and the homeless people, it makes sense. It seems very feasible that this could in fact be done, and quite easily. It's just a lot of manpower and a lot of footwork to do it, and a whole lot of lying. So it's all catching up, right? It's all catching up. Now, General Flynn, he's back in the news, right? And yeah, General Flynn, we just hope, we know what Judge Sullivan is doing to him and holding him hostage. And he had some disappointing news. Full DC Circuit blocks Michael Flynn DOJ effort to drop charges. So as we know, Michael Flynn, the Department of Justice, the head of the Department of Justice, Bill Barr, has told Judge Sullivan, who is overseeing this case, to drop it. And that they don't even have any prosecutors prosecuting the case, but Judge Sullivan is clinging to hope. So let's get into this article. A full panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit overturned an earlier appellate judgment Monday, granting a writ of mandamus to Michael Flynn, forcing the district court to allow the Department of Justice's effort to drop the case. In July, Flynn won a 2-1 decision before a 3-judge panel, which held that Judge Emmett Sullivan's decision to invite a amicus curiae brief from a retired judge violated the separation of powers in the Constitution. The brief would advise the court as to whether Flynn should be held in criminal contempt of court for withdrawing his guilty plea, a right every defendant theoretically possesses. The Department of Justice sought to drop the charges after a review of the case by U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Jensen found that the FBI had failed to turn over potentially exculpatory evidence showing investigators believed Flynn had not lied, that he was not suspected of prior wrongdoing, and that they discussed whether they were attempting to set him up to be fired. Now, just as an aside, quickly, I did a walkthrough, and I'm still in the process. This is part 1 of the General Flynn case, and I think it's important. This is history, and it'll be out there forever. So if you're ever interested in the goings on and how it happened, McCabe and all of the actors that were involved in this, Struck and Page and all of that, it's in this. I read through it. I go through the document. It's definitely worth your listen. At any rate, so Sullivan appealed for an in-bank hearing and won an 8-2 decision to overturn the writ. The D.C. court also denied Flynn's effort to have Sullivan, who had earlier accused Flynn of treason and had to apologize, reassigned from the case. Well, I certainly would want a judge who is saying that I committed treason. I mean, he's not being the woman who who's blindfolded, holding the balance of justice. Well, I mean, it's tipped there. Sullivan is saying that he committed treason. Is that a fair judge presiding over Michael Flynn, General Flynn's case? I think not. I think not. So the majority wrote that Flynn has not established that he has no other adequate means to attain the relief he desires, and that he could always challenge the district court's final decision, which I believe would be going to the Supreme Court, which is just ridiculous. In their dissent, judges Naomi Rayo and Karen Henderson, who granted Flynn the writ of mandamus the first time around, wrote, "The majority gestures at the potential harms of such a judicial intrusion into the executive branch, but takes a wait and see approach, hoping and hinting that the district judge will not take the actions he clearly states he will take." Both dissenting judges were appointed by Republicans. 7 of the 8 in the majority were appointed by Democrats. It remains unclear whether the D.C. Circuit's ruling will hold or whether Flynn will appeal to the Supreme Court. I mean, I just can't imagine what General Flynn is going through. But he's a general, so he's tough. He can take it. We wish him the best, right? And lastly, we know there's been another shooting of a Black man, this time in LA. But before we get into the shooting in LA, I wanted to share a little bit of the press conference with President Trump. He went to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and of course the media asked questions, and I just want to point out some things. So let's get to it.
Do you have any questions, please?
Can't hear it, but you'll know when President Trump responds pretty much what the question is.
No, it's not, but yeah. No, it's not. It's just that we're tired of watching every night with Portland. They're on night 104 now, and we're tired of watching it because it could be solved in an hour. And we're tired of watching a mayor that has no clue what's going on. And people are calling our office, and people are calling Washington that live in Portland and live in the state. And they're saying, please, please send help. And the governor, we call the governor often. And they say, no, we don't need your help. But I say, your community is burning down.
Well, exactly. Your community is burning down. Mayor Wheeler, he's on the chopping block, as they say. He's in deep trouble with his constituents. They're telling him that either you defund the police by 2022 or you're out. We want you gone. So there, Portland, Oregon is in a world of hurt, and most importantly are the residents of Portland, Oregon. My heart goes out to those people because this has to be a nightmare on their street. And President Trump has told them time and again that we will send out, federal assistance, but they don't want it, and it doesn't make a lick of sense. But let's keep going.
They don't need our help. Now, I don't know if that's political. I don't know what is going on. Certainly not common sense, but we could solve it just like here. We
Yeah,
all
it's
work
not
together.
common
We came with
sense.
the federal government, the state government, the city government, everybody worked together. The senator, the congressman, it was like a beautiful thing. It just worked. And it was done almost instantly. People were amazed. And as you probably will have to report, maybe people are surprised. There's been zero problem in terms of your safety, our safety. I feel so safe. 4 or 5 days ago, James, we couldn't have done this.
So there you go. He's saying, hey, we're safe. All of this rioting and mayhem and looting and shooting and literally killing of people, of life, taking of human life, this can all be prevented if you just give the word.
The law enforcement's been so great, and we could do this in Portland so quickly, so easily. It would be incredible. We would have done it in Seattle. We were all set to go into Seattle, as you know, the following day, and they heard that, and they sent the police in, and the police did a good job. But the people gave up. They were exhausted. They were there for a long time, and they gave up. They were exhausted. So we're there. I mean, we
Yeah, I
love to
guess
help.
all of that,
Oregon would love to help.
all of that fighting and whatnot takes its toll on the body, right? All of that rioting and looting and exerting of unnecessary negative energy just takes its toll.
Really love to help Portland because we could solve that problem so easily. We have the people, they're ready. They could be there in less than an hour, and it would all end. And they got a glimpse of that in this great state. They got a really good glimpse of it. It happened very quickly. And now, I mean, I see it. They're already rebuilding. You're already rebuilding your stores. You'll be rebuilding your store soon, your camera shop. So we don't want to do that, but at some point we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it. Okay.
What would you say to the Blake family? I know you didn't get a chance to talk to them, but what would you say to them in terms of the pain they're going through and the questions they have about what happened?
Well, I feel terribly for anybody that goes through that. That's why I was so honored to meet the pastors. I feel terribly for anybody that goes through that. As you know, it's under investigation. It's a big thing happening right now. I guess it's under local investigation. I know, Bill, you're also participating, but it's under your local investigation.
So he's talking about the shooting of Jacob Blake, and it's under investigation. And the thing about it is, I just wanted to share that before we get into this last story, because it's there, people are up in arms about these shootings of Black men specifically, and it's really about numbers. I mean, it's horrible when anyone loses their life, okay, but there are tens of thousands of police officers throughout this great nation, tens of thousands. And that's a lot of people. And if we really had if it was hunting season on, as LeBron James liked to put it, I'm paraphrasing here, but if it's hunting season on Blacks and Black men in particular, then we would see a lot more of that. It's unfortunate that anybody is shot and killed by the police, but for example, this Jacob case, this Blake case, he was resisting arrest. You cannot do that. All you have to do is comply. Just listen, comply, and you will be able to either go home to your family, or maybe you'll be arrested. Maybe you've committed a crime. But whatever the case may be, if you comply, then you will be fine. But again, it's the numbers don't bear out all of this protesting. And some people might say, well, one person is too many. And I would agree that it's unfortunate that somebody would lose their life or be paralyzed in the case of Jacob Blake. I understand that. But sometimes when you bring a gun to, you have a gun with you and you're pointing it at the police. Well, I mean, if you don't have a problem pointing a gun at the police, and you don't have a problem pointing the gun at someone like you listening here, or me, that's dangerous. And when a gun is pointed at the police, they are trained to shoot to kill. Because if you're going to point a gun, your intentions are to kill. So let's just read a little bit of this. Protesters gather after police shoot and kill a black man in South Los Angeles. A group of demonstrators gathered at the scene at after a black man was shot and killed by police officers on Monday in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department said officials shot the man after he produced a handgun. According to the local media, sheriff's investigators say the incident occurred after officers attempted to stop the man riding his bike for a vehicle code violation. Now, he was riding his bike, and it was a vehicle code violation. You would go home to your family. All they would do is probably give you a ticket, but instead you lost your life. Now, I don't know the full story. We will find out at some point, but that's just another, I mean, let's just wait and see what happens. I want to know all the facts, but that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed today, and please do like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. You take good care, and we will talk again soon. Bye.